So you can't see me, but I think you know who I am. It's cold this morning. I'm out here with Jeff Oliver. Water's dirty. We had 20-knot winds last night, blowing from the north. Very high pressure. Pressure's supposed to get up to 30.4 by noon today. We'll see if the rule of thumb holds, where anything above 30.3 you can't catch trout. But we're trying to make the best of this, and always a challenge. This is a graph of the actual atmospheric pressure on the day that we fished. You can see this giant spike up in the atmospheric pressure, getting over 30.4 inches. This is what we were dealing with on this morning. Now, when we started, it was lower, less than 30.3, but 30.3 is supposed to be, in some people's opinion, that threshold above which you can't catch trout. So we were going to find out today whether this rapid increase in pressure and the pressure above that threshold was going to let us catch any trout, or whether they were all going to have lockjaw. Along with that high pressure came high winds, especially the night before. We started fishing here about 7 o'clock, and we fished till about 2 o'clock. So we were dealing with pretty high winds during that time, especially in the morning. Now, the interesting thing is this part of the day before, the night, was very high winds, and it pushed the water out of the upper marsh. And so when we were driving down the Delacroix Highway, we saw boats docked along the highway that were basically in the mud. But once we got out there and down toward Four Horse Lake, then we figured out that, well, the water wasn't actually that low out there. In fact, if you see this on the gauge height here at Crooked Bayou, which is by Four Horse, you'll see that this low point, which is what we were facing when we get out there, is really not that much lower than the median. This is a 16-year median height. What's going on is here we're sitting in a bend. The water is flowing, tide's coming in, so it's coming into this bayou. This is actually a really short bayou. It doesn't really go anywhere. Just ends up in there in a couple ponds. But we're fishing, throwing up current, working it down with the current. Just have the boat anchored so we can fish slower. So we picked this spot to start at because it had less water flowing through it, and therefore the water wasn't as dirty. And we were successful here, including this 20-inch trout, which I released to grow into a bigger fish. I caught that thing out there. Further. Yeah, right there. There you go.
Man, I'm stuck on a shell.
Third fish.
We got number 3. Number 1 for me, though. There's a little keeper. We're gonna make a sandwich.
But you can see what that strong wind from the north had done the night before in keeping the water out of the upper marsh. But there was a lot of water pushing in because there was supposed to be a big tide rise during the day, strong incoming tide, and the wind had been holding it back. Well, when the wind turned from the north to the southeast, that tide just screamed in. You can see this huge increase in water level, and so we went from having pretty reasonable current conditions in the morning to having basically screaming rivers of water going everywhere. Nice trout on the squid. A dang nice trout, in fact. Look at that thing. That is on the good old B2 squid, which I haven't fished. First fish I've caught this year on it. Hardly fished it. Switched over to popping cork in the middle of the lake. So by mid-morning, we had to switch the areas that we were targeting for trout because that fast water just made all the bayous unfishable. And in my opinion, the current's just too strong. So my strategy when that happens is to try to move either into protected bayous that don't really flow much or kind of dead-ended, or move out into the big lakes. And so we moved out into the big lakes where we started to find trout. A little bigger one. Maybe. That's a keeper. Is that on the cork?
Cork.
The cork. Cool. Cork comes through.
Didn't want to go under it.
Probably ought to just pick up and try something different. Something that we enjoy. But we've kind of already defined that, yeah, we can catch them with a cork. So
yeah, just drift through.
Maybe
over and over and over.
Try something. Yeah, it's pretty boring just doing that all day.
You should have never left. There's another one.
Holy cow, look at this. We are back. Oh my goodness. We are back to where we started, and look at that. He's two fishing about 2 casts.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Well, we've been trying to confirm a pattern, and seems like this is a relevant pattern then. This deep spot, the water's not flowing as hard here. That's one of the big problems with some of the other places we've been. Water's flowing too fast. This is a nice fish. Oh yeah, come on. Oh yeah. Oh, nice.
There you go.
Beautiful. Oh, very nice. Yeah, decent trout.
Oh, there's another one.
Yeah, you're on fire with them.
This is a good one, maybe.
Ah! Ah!
Put him back in.
Oh my goodness.
Here's my first one of the
It's
year.
too early to catch those.
First one of the year. Wait a minute.
Can't believe it.
Yep, we gotta go now.
It is still March.
Yeah, there's one.
And in March, at least this March, I'm catching a few trout in each place, and then I move on, try a new area, catch a few more trout. So after going back to that bayou where we started and we again caught trout, we moved on back into into Four Horse Lake and began to fish where some of the bayous empty into the lake. Not right in the bayou where the water was fast, but where it slowed down as it entered the lake. Oh man, sweet. I need to change my, oh that's another decent ball of wood. Yeah.
They're dancing it really now.
I got a nice trout here that I caught. I didn't have the battery. I had to replace my battery. But this is a beautiful 16-inch trout. Either because of the nasty conditions or the stained water, this was not a good day for hard baits like jerk baits or topwater baits. We caught most of our fish on swim baits on jig heads, just tight lined, or under corks. Here we're fishing a smaller lake that has a kind of neck in it, and there, if you look in the background, you can see the water flowing rapidly through this section. And we're fishing just as the water gets out of the neck and starts to slow down into the main body of the lake. Are you serious? It's a fish?
It's moving.
It's a fish then.
Bumping into fish down there.
It's a net, kind of netting fish.
Probably. We'll see. Oh, let's see.
Is it a redfish?
Feels weird. I don't know. Maybe it's foul hook or something.
Oh, man. Amazing. Oh, you snagged him. Here, Jeff gives us a good lesson on how to safely unhook a stingray. Flip it over. How do you do that? How are you going to do that? You need him upside down, don't you? without getting hit by that tail. There you go. Oh yeah, okay.
And then you can just...
Ah, nice. So easy.
Even I can do it. 2 o'clock already.
Whoa, wait, I gotta fish.
Oh, what?
Son of a gun.
Nothing's in here.
That's unbelievable. I didn't even do anything to catch this fish. I just put it out there like it was a piece of shrimp. Ooh, it's a nice one, too.
Wasn't it?
It is a nice fish. Oh, man. Look at this thing. He is a volunteer guy. I did nothing to deserve this fish other than being able to cast my lure. Beautiful. Thanks to V2, I didn't even have to work the bait. The trout bites seemed to be getting better, actually, as the day moved along, even though pressure was high, and even though it was turning into that bluebird day that you get after a front comes through, which is known to be terrible for fishing. But we had to wrap it up. I'm sure we would have caught a lot more in the lakes if we had stayed till dark. So it was a slow day, no doubt about that. Trout didn't come in multiples by any means. Still, we caught fish, we caught trout in pressure conditions that are supposed to give them lockjaw. And it was the day after a front came through, that bluebird day, and we still caught trout. So you really have to go. That's pretty much my philosophy. If I have a day I can go fishing, I go fishing. I don't worry about the conditions that much. I'm probably going to catch something. Anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you can get out and fish too.